three. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, please. And I want you to share the show. The Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page. I'm getting so many requests from you, and I'm so heartened by that. But I can't accept them because you all are going to the Santita Jackson page. It's Santita Jackson and Friends. And friends. And friends. So please go there. Santita Jackson and Friends. Plus, it's an old picture anyway. I had dark hair then. Wow. And so I'm also on X at Santita J. We are streaming there live, but we are on live on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. So this show will be on the air tomorrow morning. But I'm glad that the Morning Stars are joining us over here now because we've got a lot to talk about. As I reached out to so many of you on this panel, Dr. Robert Starks, a renowned political scientist and academician, Northeastern Illinois University, scholar and professor emeritus, T.O. Hardiman, who has his own book. What is the name of it very quickly, T.O.?
Interrupting Gun Violence, the Public Health Approach.
Go to Amazon and get it. He's also on WVON on every Sunday at 6 a.m., 6 to 7, just before Keep Hope Alive. The president emerita of the National Organization of Women, attorney Terry O'Neill, brilliant civil rights lawyer, and of course, community psychologist from Make Noise for Change, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, attorney Mark Fancher, brilliant author, civil libertarian, brilliant lawyer. I'm going to start with you, Democratic strategist, and you still look so beautiful for someone who's been pulling out her hair. Oh my gosh. But it's going to be okay. Because I'm going to tell you, when I reached out to everybody, Palestinian American activists, my sister beloved, but everybody is a sister and brother beloved here. I said, I came across this interesting information. And poor Terry O'Neill, Attorney O'Neill said, oh my God. Rahm Emanuel is back, you all. They've at least they've tried to rehabilitate his career. And poor Dr. Starks, I had to pick him up off the floor last night, but I was on the phone. Just everybody. Rahm Emanuel resonates in a profound way with people in Chicago. But as those of us who have been politically active, he's resonated with us too. Some people applaud his personality. He's aggressive, but he's also belligerent. He's known for being quite mean. He gets things done, but at what price? And then what about Laquan McDonald? 16 shots and a cover-up. What about that? In the name of Laquan McDonald, how can he be revived and be given the important ambassadorship to Japan? Well, it's because he's raised more money than anyone. And he was raising money, yes, thuggishly. Don't talk about these people overseas. He was someone who rolled through Congress. I know I have a brother who was in it at the time, and other friends were there. And you know it, Rania. You know. And so I'm just trying to figure out how David Axelrod, with confidence, could say, you know what? We need a change. Nancy Pelosi said, I don't think Democrats want to change. I'm like, are you kidding me? Did you see how you just got creamed? Do you know how many votes you lost? How many people did not vote for you? How many people stayed home? That was their form of protest, everybody. Democrats didn't have to lose this election, not with what we have been able to do in terms of policy. Didn't have to do it. But something happened. And now David Axelrod has said, you know what? He's the guy we need. The Democrats need to follow to head the party. Rania Patrice, what say you? Because I'm going to tell you right now, that's not going to work for me. I'm not.
Same.
I feel like barely holding on.
I feel like I've said over my dead body several times in the last few days.
Well, not over your dead body. Don't do that. Don't do that to you. No, you don't need to do that.
But I mean, not. It's so hard. You know, I do words for a living, and I have a hard time finding the words. It is so unbelievable. I thought it was a joke I was like, somebody's punking us right now, because
Mm.
explain to me how this man's name is being uttered as somebody anybody should be following. And the thing that's so wild, I just got back to DC, where I was in a bunch of meetings, and I'm just going to say it out loud. I am doing everything I can to ensure that man does not step foot in the leadership of our party ever again. And he has such a laundry list of horrible things that when I said he covered up a murder, people went, "Oh my God, I forgot about that." Imagine having so many horrible things that you have done that cover up a murder is the thing that somebody could ever forget. I mean,
No,
obviously, it's top
but
of mind.
Melania, he's been protected because
Absolutely.
people have continued to dog Reverend with being an anti-Semite, for example, because he has stood up for Palestinians. No, I mean, no. They want to put that on his tombstone. I'm not going to let them do it. Not when someone, because they let white people go. Mike Huckabee can say something aggressive. He said something that was interpreted as anti-Semitic some years ago, and he turned to the camera and said, "You ought not mess with your friends," and they backed up off of him. No, because this is
Yeah.
racism in extrema. Because the only people
Yeah.
they go after are people of color who dare to
Absolutely.
speak up and say, "You can't do this to the Palestinians. You're wrong. You can't do this." Now, and I want you to feel safe, but you can't kill these people, and they need to be safe, and they need justice. Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And this, I mean, Quan McDonald ought to be disqualifying to me. It ought to be. Why isn't it?
Absolutely. I agree. I agree completely. But it's exactly what you said. He has been protected by some of the most popular people in the Democratic Party. And
And the media.
and the media. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then the other part of it too, even if we put all these atrocious things aside, which I mean, none of us are actually going to do that, but for a second, it's a reality. This is not the man that's going to lead us into the future. This is the guy that's going to uphold the status quo, all the parts of the status quo. And the status quo lost. The status quo lost, and the tacking to the right and the triangulation, all that stuff lost. I mean, we need people who are going to be really talking about the Democratic Party as a party of humanity. And that's what I know you and I've talked about this before. That's what I signed up for. I'm a lifelong Democrat. That's what I signed up for. I did not sign up for the Liz, Dick Cheney, whatever business that they were doing this cycle. That's the kind of Democrat I am. And I think millions of people across this country aren't either. And
And
Rahm
let me tell you,
Emanuel
Rania,
ain't it.
they will lose them. They will lose me. I remember
Yes.
seeing a fax in 1984 when we were in San Francisco at the Democratic convention, and someone came into the room, slouched shoulders. They said, "Do you know what they have for us?" And this is after Reverend has registered more than 2.5 million people and put them in the party. No one had ever done anything like that before. It was a DLC. Bill Clinton, Sam Nunn, Al Gore, Chuck Robb. These were like the big guys in the party at the time who were always on the right. Not in the right, but on the right. Al Fromm. They said, in order to counteract the impact of Jesse Jackson and the 2.5 million voters he has brought on, you remember this, Dr. Starks? They said, we are forming the DLC and we're going to run our own slate of candidates. If we're not successful, we're going to the Republican Party. That's where the Blue Dogs came from. Now that's 40 years ago. I'm tired of this. See, I was ready to go then. But Reverend said, and other black folks who were in the party who had been dismissed, they were not even on the menu. They were cooks in the kitchen. We had to get on the menu and then get a seat at the table. He said, I'm trying to get us to the table. And we're going to have to take a lot of hits. And baby, you can't take it personally. Yeah, they're coming after us, but you can't take it personally. I might not get in, but you might. So daddy's big enough to take the hits. He could make me cry right now. Because he's got the fighter's disease. He's in a wheelchair with Parkinson's because he took all those hits. But that's all right. He was willing to do it. And I'm glad he was man enough to do it, to get a woman on the ticket that white women never thanked us for. Never. They wouldn't even stand for our 4 planks. Yeah, I'm going off right now because I want you all to know the history. calling Reverend an anti-Semite because he stood 10 toes down for Palestinian justice and Israeli safety at the same time. Did he make some mistakes along the way? Who doesn't? But everybody's been forgiven for theirs. Rahm Emanuel oversaw the murder of this child who was shot 16 times, Rania. 16 times. They covered it up so he could get back in. And they have resuscitated him back into respectability. And we cannot allow that. And if this is what this Democratic Party is about, you will lose me. I'm not taking this anymore. I can't do that.
Absolutely.
And you cannot, you're not going to, I have self-respect. I've got an insult level. And you know what? Other people do too. That's why you're seeing a black migration from the party. That's why you're seeing a Latino migration from the party. That's why these young people are leaving this behind. I'm not alone. And you are in the meeting. You're like, wait a minute, do y'all know what you're doing? How? I mean, because David Axelrod has got stature. He's standing on top of a box. I got sitting here with all the giants who are in holes. Okay. He says, I think he'd be great. And he's got this sweet generee. And, he's just the kind of guy, he's aggressive. He's mean as hell. He is.
I'm all about being aggressive. I'm about being aggressive for the right things.
But you don't have to be mean.
Aggressive. Yes, exactly. Yes, that's it.
You don't have to be. And you don't have to be a murder, Rania.
No.
And I haven't even gotten to all the schools that he shut down. I'm going to let everybody else talk about that. In the black neighborhoods, depriving our children of an education because he said to the teachers union president at the time, 25% of them won't make it anyway. Yeah, sip the tea. I mean, are you for real? And that's the Democrat along with Liz Cheney? Okay, talk to me. Sell them to me now, please. Yep. I'm waiting.
I can't. There's no selling that man to anybody. Not one that's being honest. I mean, there's no excuses. There's no justification. And you're exactly right. There's been this rehab tour starting with putting him as an ambassador. There's no excuse. This is appalling and offensive.
How are you going to tell these young
people possible?
How are you going to tell uncommitted that? Do you want them back? Stay right there, Ronnie. I know you got to go. Is there anything else you want to say? Because you're one of the people who we, the people, sent into the room. See, there's some people who've been presented to us, but you're one of us, and you're in the room, and you're fighting like mad. So I don't want anyone to misinterpret who you are. What's going on here? Is he the answer? And what?
Of course not. No, and the other thing that's so offensive is we've got some incredible leaders in our party. We have incredible people in our party. And you want to tell me you want to dust off Rahm Emanuel and that's the guy? This is the person? We have so many amazing men and women that are ready to lead and ready to lead for people, for the greater good, for bringing humanity back to the center of not just our party, but my God, this country. And that's who we want to go. No, he's not the answer. He's absolutely not the answer. There are names being talked about that are, I would take almost any one of them. And it does not, this idea that we don't have any choices. And frankly, you know what it reminds me of? Sorry to bring up the old stuff, but this makes me think of being told, no, Biden's the only one. That also wasn't true.
It didn't work.
It also wasn't true. No.
Not only was it not true, it ended in disaster.
Yeah. And we got to stop doing that. We have some really incredible leaders. There's some young people in the wings that are ready to go. We got to be better about passing that torch. We do. We just do.
Rania, you also have young people who refuse to come into a party like this, and we're beginning to get outnumbered. Okay, and I'm not going to lead my children into a burning house. I'm not going to do it. If y'all want to come up with something else, I will help you do that. But I'm not going to help you stand up for wrong. I'm not going to let you do it. No.
Yeah.
You can campaign with Liz Cheney, but you can't campaign with AOC and Ilhan Omar and Bernie Sanders. Really? No, you're not talking to me. You talking to someone else. And I don't do, let's put it this way, being assaulted well. How about that part? Let's put it that way. I'll fight you to the death. So I want it. Ronnie, I'm gonna get everybody else in because everyone's heard me rant this morning, but I've been very warm about this because when I saw that, I saw him on TV. I said, "Are you what? You can't even read the tea leaves." Ronnie, what do you want to say before you go?
I just, I really want everything that you're saying is exactly right. When you're talking about young people, and you've heard me say this before, one of the things I work with so many young people, and the thing I love about them is they're beholden to nobody. There are more of them. That youth demographic is outnumbering all the others. And if we think they're just going to fall in line, if we think, and like you said too, the Black community, the Latino community, if we just think everybody's going to fall in line, that is a failing strategy. So even if we're going to be totally crass and only think about this strategically, it's time for a new plan. And going backward from a manual is not the new plan. Going back to somebody who has a laundry list of atrocities is not the plan. And if we get it together, I'm terrified for all of us. I don't have kids, but I got a little baby nephew and another one on the way. And let me tell you, I will fight like hell for him.
Yeah, I'm not afraid. I hear you, but I'm not afraid. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. And if you want, you can have them if you want, but you won't have me at the same time. How about that part?
Me and millions of other people. Let's
That's
be honest.
It. Okay, well then, if they want their party together, they won't do this, and they will stop mentioning it because it's an insult to have it mentioned.
Absolutely.
Somebody
called David Axelrod for me, please.
Oh, girl, you're doing too much. But I love you, and just keep up the great work. And I cannot wait to have you back. And thank you for bearing with me with the time change this morning. Everybody's been so wonderful. But you know what? I'm going to move straight on across this stage. Attorney Mark Fancher, Lord help us. What are your thoughts?
Well, for a very long time, my standard line has been the Republican Party and the Democratic Party must be destroyed because both parties are enemies of people who matter. And so very often people have called me terrible things and said that I'm irresponsible, I'm reckless, but I'm also a revolutionary. And the job of a revolutionary is not to tell people where to go or what to do, but to look at what they're already doing and to tell them how to get to where they're going faster. And so I knew and continue to know that for people who are oppressed, particularly Black people, that they're leaving the Democratic Party. For all of the reasons that have been stated, the contradictions are too clear. The evidence is too great that this party is designed to serve the interests of an oligarchy, of people who have influence and power, and they're not designed to serve the interests of poor people, working people, marginalized communities, and others. And it will never change. That is what it is. And so we just simply must leave the party. And I think that, as I said, I just saw it happening. And I think we've seen greater evidence of it happening with this recent election. People are leaving. The unfortunate thing is that I think that we who are leaving have the wrong destination. The Republican Party, or what's called the Republican Party, is not the right destination. That's not going to get them where they're going. I know where they're going. I mean, they're going for liberation, and that's not going to liberate them. And I think that the thing that I would say to them and to others is it's not just a matter of leaving the Democratic Party. It's a matter of leaving electoral politics altogether. Because the duopoly that we've been given is one that is designed and it is intended to ensure the continuing power of forces which have as their primary agenda exploiting and oppressing and excluding. And so we need to leave it all together. And the fact, and it's not just me saying this. Years ago, probably around 2008, I wrote a piece that referred to chitlin politics. And what that term means is it's a reference to on the plantation during slavery, when the big house, the masters in the big house, had taken all of the best parts of the food, best food. They threw the entrails and the worst parts of the pig out into the garbage. And so the enslaved people, they would go and retrieve the garbage. And that included pig intestines, entrails, and the worst parts of the pig. And they would do what they could with it so that they would have something to eat. And so they just persuaded themselves that this was something that was good. Chitlins were good. And it became soul food. But it was garbage. Politics at this point has become chitlins. Because we know that in this country, there are many, many people who have excellent credentials, people who are highly educated, and who have incredible experience, who would be excellent presidents and who would otherwise be excellent government leaders. And these people have turned their back on the electoral system. These talented people will take positions as partners in major law firms and bring down $1-2 million a year in salaries. These are people who will become consultants. These are people who will take other kinds of positions, but they will not go into politics because they know that the president of the United States is nothing but an errand boy for the oligarchy. That whoever occupies that position is just there to perform a function, to ensure the continuing power of those who have power now. And they don't want to cheapen their lives by doing that, by just simply running and being at the beck and call of people with power and influence. They want to wield power and influence. And they've left a vacuum. And so the people that have rushed in to take to fill that vacuum back in 2008, it was somebody creeping in from the fields. Barack Obama creeped in from the fields and retrieved the chitlin politics from the garbage and ran
Santita,
of the United
I
States.
can't hear you.
And then in the most recent period, we have had someone who crept in from who knows where in the form of Donald Trump, who ran and became president of the United States. There are far more people than Donald Trump with much more talent, much more expertise, who could have challenged him. And if you look at the full field of candidates, you will see that all of them are people who are rejects and weirdos and people who really don't belong in any responsible position of any kind. So why should we, as people who come from oppressed and marginalized communities, go and retrieve that garbage and be part of it? We need to find another way to ensure our community stability, our continuing prosperity. And I think specifically for communities of color, most particularly people of African descent, we need a different mindset. Our relationship with the Democratic Party is much like that of an abused spouse. They beat on us. They do all kinds of horrible things to us. They humiliate us. They degrade us, and we just come running right back. Well, we finally got the nerve in this election cycle to leave, but we've gone to the wrong place for refuge. And I think that what we really need is to establish a different type of a mentality, a different perspective. There are many immigrant communities where people have escaped horrible conditions in their community, in their countries, and they've come here knowing that they're not welcome, knowing that they're not going to be given a break, knowing that they're not going to have opportunities. And they've not even entertained the thought of trying to run for office or to try and to wield any type of influence within government or anything like that. They have kept their heads down low. They've worked hard. They've established businesses. They've flown below the radar and tried to prosper as best they can. I'm not saying that we don't keep a hand in the political process, but we can't devote so much energy and emotional, have such an emotional investment in it that it distracts us and it keeps us from doing other things that can help to establish new institutions that serve our communities and to strengthen the ones that we have and to build a solid base of power to the extent that we can build it within the parameters of what this country allows. And so we really need to, in my mind, divorce not only the Democratic Party, but the electoral process to the extent that we invest in it so heavily, emotionally, and in terms of our time and our energy. It is a dead end, and I know where our people are going, and it is not deeper into this system, which is designed to keep them oppressed and exploited.
Attorney Terry O'Neill.
Yeah, I am a proud dues-paying member of the Portland, Oregon chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. So I have to tell you, Mark, you talk about leaving the Democratic Party. I kind of have one step out the door right there myself. I worried about this when the campaign turned toward the Cheneys. I get the abstract thinking about, big tent. Democrats have long been a big tent party, unlike the Republican Party, which for decades now has been over 90% white. So big tent, but that was not coupled with a clear and determined narrative about how corporate power is destroying our democracy. Right. And how Rahm Emanuel is exactly the person that if you want the corporations to take over the Democratic Party, he's the guy you would put in charge. Right. Remember when he closed all the schools in Chicago and there was talk about, we're going to repurpose the buildings for the neighborhoods and it's going to be good. No, he never did any of that. And apparently what he did do, what I read that he did was that disproportionately the schools that were closed were located closer to downtown that developers had their eye on those properties. Were those properties used for the benefit of the local communities that lost those schools? No. Because what Rahm Emanuel was doing was using his office for the betterment of his funders. And of course, in any city, in any county, the funders are all going to be the developers, right? That's kind of how that works. So what the centrist Democrats are talking about is let's double down on the DLC idea. Every time a Republican wins, we should turn into more like Republicans. And I think that they're not going to get the youth vote by doing that. I think Mark is right. I'm too much of a political junkie to actually envision myself staying out of politics entirely. But I do think that the leadership we need is going to come from people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It's going to come from people like Rashida Tlaib,
Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman.
Jamal Bowman, absolutely, yes, and Cori Bush, and from Seattle, Pramila Jayapal.
That's right.
It's going to come from people who understand the importance of unions and the importance of unions shedding their racist and sexist history to be, fully inclusive. That's where the future is. And in fact, the vast majority of people in this country actually want the programs that have been proposed by your dad back in the 80s, and then by Bernie Sanders, by Elizabeth Warren, by AOC, by Pramila Jayapal, by Cori Bush, by Jamal, that is what most of the American people want. And why don't we have it? It's because because the Supreme Court opened the floodgates to allow tons of corporate money into the system. The question is, how do we fix the system? The thing we're faced with is, well, if you don't vote for the Democrat, then you let the fascist, and I say that very intentionally, the Republican Party is now a party of fascism. So the choice we were faced with in this most recent election was, will you vote in a way that will result in fascists taking power in this country, or will you vote for a party that is bringing in the Cheneys and talking about somehow they're doing okay?
Stop right there, Terry. I'm voting for. I don't want to talk about fascism. You want to know why? Because because I've got a party that ran on democracy and they canceled it. They canceled the primary.
Exactly. That's
No,
true. Yes.
no. They canceled the primary. They gave me no choices. They did not tell us the truth about the president and his health. Now that's who I got here. I've got two sets of this. I know who the Republicans are. The Democrats give me the same dagger with a smile.
Mhm.
And you know what? The kids and a lot of people are clear on the conceit. See, I'm not that locked in because I grew up under Richard Daley. I grew up on the plantation that we were breaking off of. So you can't frighten me with this. Not you, but I cannot. I'm not.
Right.
I'm
right.
the runaway. I'm like, you got to be joking me. I'm not going to do this. I always thought it was a joke. When you're talking about democracy and you cancel the primary, you look me in my eye and tell me I have no choice. You took out the most popular candidate 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Bernie Sanders, all the party bigwigs made a call, and suddenly Amy Klobuchar, Pete Buttigieg, everybody's jumping out. What's this? So y'all can squeeze and choke Bernie. They did it to Reverend in the 80s. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then, but you're supposed to be frightened. Are you joking me? I am a Black American, a descendant of people who were enslaved, and and folks who did the Trail of Tears too. And I'm an amalgam of rejects. My great-great-grandfather was Irish, so trying to get out the famine. All right. So I'm an amalgam of everybody that nobody wants on one side of my family. And on the other side, they picked my grandmother chopped sugarcane in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
I got it. I am sick of this.
That's the thing.
You cannot continue to serve up entrails to me. You don't clean them as they eat it.
Mm-hmm.
You kill a boy. You clean him up. You clean up the guy who covered it up. And you say that I'm supposed to, well, you need to be frightened of the Republicans. Are you for real? I survived these jokers. You cannot think that one guy's going to frighten me.
Oh, yeah.
I'm unfightable, honey. What? I mean, and I hear you because I'm done with that. This is, you cannot, and all of the hypocrisy is now on full display. And Terry, I'm grateful. All the stuff that we've been in the corners whispering about, like, I can't believe this, but we're going to try and go with this because maybe at least we'll be able to kick the can down the road. Yeah, kick the can, but not me.
Right.
Terry, if women don't have an insult level, we're going to continue to deal with misogyny and sexism, which is as offensive to me as racism. It is. I mean, we can't take this.
I know, Santita, I do know. And I think, it really has to be said. So,
I mean, there's a reason if you're with the DSA.
yes, you know why I joined the DSA. I just participated in a protest march the day after Roe versus Wade was overturned, and it was organized by the DSA. And this young white man, Portland, right? It's very white. He is talking about women's reproductive health care very holistically. He's talking about that what just happened at the Supreme Court is making it harder to address the racial gap in reproductive health care outcomes, where Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely than white women to die from complications of pregnancy and childbirth. He's talking about also the fact that you're not a pro-choice state if all you do is repeal your abortion bans and you don't give women the opportunity to have a job that has benefits and the ability to save some money. If you don't have women the opportunity to live in a community that is thriving, that is free from violence, if you don't give women the opportunity to really not have to live in a home where there's intimate partner violence, if you don't address all of these issues, then reproductive health care really doesn't mean as much as you think. It was everything that I've been saying
Yeah. And
for years.
Why am I doing this?
And here is this person, absolutely articulating things that, quite frankly, quite a few people in the women's movement do not articulate. Don't look at it holistically, right? So So that's why I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. I just thought his analysis was spot on, and I'm going to support them.
And the Democrats they're not supporting your analysis. And when they don't support your analysis, then we're not on the same page. Therefore,
I know, but oh, be aware. So here in Tennessee, women have already started to die because of the complete ban on abortion care. So it does have very severe consequences. Here in Nashville, Tennessee, there's a very large community of immigrants, particularly from Latin America and South America. We are preparing for the massive workplace raids that are going to be coming, and they will be scooping up individuals, basically racial profiling, and putting them in detention camps. My personal prediction is that this is not about actually deporting them. That's logistically really hard. This is to put them into detention camps where they will then be put to work for corporations who want them and don't want to pay wages to people to do work. So this is literally coming. So
and it's been coming under Democrats too.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
They've been. I mean,
that's the problem, right?
I mean, they are the problem.
Yeah,
it's the oligarchy that's the problem, who use both of these parties.
Yes.
To enact their policies. I keep telling you, there is a tent program for refugees. They want Venezuela without Venezuelans because they want their oil. They want Africa without Africans because they want their resources. So all these people are migrating to places. So because America never learned the lesson, and what we do is use slave labor or near slave labor to build things for free or not for free. America was not built by immigrants. It was built by enslaved people who then gave immigrants a place to come to go to work.
Right. Yes. That's
Stop
right.
with that. That's not true.
That's right.
We built this place and we weren't paid. It wasn't for free. We weren't paid. Let me move around. Tio, what's on your mind, hon?
Yeah, David Axelrod, suggesting making a recommendation that Rahm Emanuel should lead the DNC or whatever. That's like a slap in the faces of African American people and all the like-minded people that stand up for injustice here across America. African American women voted for Mrs. Harris, in big numbers. About over 80% of African American men voted for Mrs. Harris as well. And this is another good example of how the Democratic Party cannot reinvent themselves. They're trying to reach back to somebody that's toxic. You have to understand, when he covered up the murder of Rahm Emanuel, I'm talking about Rahm Emanuel, let me stop myself. When he covered up the murder of Laquan McDonald, it was not just Rahm. You had Black pastors that were involved in it. You had Black elected officials that were involved in it. But at the same time, Rahm was the leader at that time. And it was dead wrong. So mainly, just think about a person that would cover up a murder, what his mindset is like. What else would he cover up? That's a bigger problem as well. And it makes no sense that even Axelrod would even recommend Rahm Emanuel a blast from the past to bring him back in this type of role. And the Republicans will continue to roll forward and move forward based on the fact that the Democratic Party has lost a whole lot of, what you might say, a lot of respect, here in our nation. That's what happened. And once again, even though like what Donald Trump did in his own way, I say Donald Trump because it wasn't so much the Republican Party. Donald Trump painted a narrative that Democrats have failed us time and time again. And now what we're looking at, and then Brother Fancher, I just want to say this, I may have to take your Chitlin breakdown because the Democratic Party appears to have turned both parties actually into chitlins, and our forefathers made the best out of the scraps that were thrown to us, and the Democrats are trying to throw something to us now that doesn't make no sense in the world. There has to be other leaders in the Democratic Party that can step up to the plate and do a much better job than somebody that covered up a straight murder, execution. 16, Laquan McDonald had smoke coming off his body. Young man had smoke coming off his body. He was caught on fire almost because 16 bullets went inside this man. This young guy.
This boy.
That's what I mean. This young.
He was not of majority age. You call young man to help him feel like he's growing into manhood. He was a child.
Yeah, he was a child, and smoke was coming out of his body. The police covered it up from the floor up, and it led to a big, big problem. The family ended up receiving $5 million for some hush-hush money. And I know Laquan's mother, and she's struggling even to this day. The whole family's struggling because that money is pretty much probably evaporated now. You know, it's gone. In other words, that money's no longer around. That family could have probably received about $30 million. It's not all about money, don't get me wrong, but they probably could have received about $30 to $40 million due to the fact that some black pastors stepped up to hide what Rahm Emanuel had did. It was a big conspiracy. All this is public information, what I'm talking about, right?
But
And
you know
so now,
what, Tio, to interrupt, just to
yeah,
engage you, part of the problem are these settlements. I got to be honest with you, because you
yeah,
can't make a settlement with the indigenous community. All that
there you
money
go.
is sitting someplace. It's like, stop, because you can't pay someone for the killing of a loved one. You cannot.
No,
That's
that's what I'm
all
talking
we do.
about.
We're getting people getting killed, and you know what? Then they get money and then they go away, and the problem continues. More people are being killed than before 2022.
That's right.
That ain't helping nothing.
That's
Well,
right.
it's
Nothing's being
plantation.
settled. You're getting settlements. Ain't nothing being settled. Nothing's right.
Well, it's plantation politics, everybody. It's the model they use from the plantation to keep us divided and keep us, you know, whatever the master did, it's okay. Malcolm X said, if the master gets sick, all the other
We
brothers in
sick.
slavery say we sick, you know. And so Ron was sick, so we got sick with him, covered up a murder, man. I would like to say this a different way, but I respect your show, Santita, because
Thank you.
I'm a straight up brother, okay? And it
Yeah.
makes revolutionaries mad, okay? Guys like me get pissed off of this kind of stuff because it's not right. I'm not talking about emotionally here. I'm talking about what's right for our people. That's why
Yeah.
it's important for us to perhaps look at organizing a third party some kind of way, because it's not right, man. If this was to take place, I just think the Democrats have lost a stronghold right now. So I'm not going to go too deeper right now, but I just believe they've lost a lot when they lost this election, this presidential election.
No, I think
Okay.
a lot was exposed.
Yeah, a
That's
Yeah.
lot was
Yep.
exposed. Yeah.
all. A lot was exposed. Dr. Latrice, because I certainly want to hear what after you've heard everybody, Dr. Starks.
Um,
Okay.
I'm gonna piggyback off of the other panelists. I am mortified at this notion that someone as horrible as Rahm Emanuel, because what Tio said was true, but he left off the Democratic Black Caucus that also signed off on the cover up as well. It wasn't just black pastors, it was the Democratic Black Caucus, and that is why they lost a lot of the young people, because the young people resonated with the murder of Laquan McDonald. So many people have never forgotten about that, even to this day. When his name came up for that ambassadorship, we launched a nationwide campaign. We had people in every state. We did all kind of press releases. We did all kind of rallies. And guess what? Those Democrats who we think have our back, they stood right by Rahm Emanuel and did not say a word. Not to mention when each of them were running for their elections during this period where the cover up was exposed, each one of them used Laquan McDonald as a platform. So we're not going to forget that. And at the end of the day, I don't trust any of them, because if they turned a blind eye when it was time for the ambassadorship to be announced, they knew that they said, oh, it's wrong what he did, but nobody stood up to Rahm Emanuel. And not only are they afraid of him, but he's well protected, like Santita said. And this whole notion that there is some kind of way that he could take control of something, how could he be the person put in the position of being responsible for taking control when he has lacked nothing but, he has no self-control, he has no control over himself, how he acts, and everything is about him. And I was one of those people back in that day who said, Rahm is pushing for higher office. You all better pay attention. With the money behind him and those people that are backing him, he's pushing for a higher office. So I knew this day was coming. I'm not shocked like that. What I'm more shocked at is that these people are acting like this man is not a monstrosity. He has created a platform where he has bullied his way left and right. And to me, if the Democratic Party gets behind that, David Axelrod, whoever else, that just shows who they are as people. And I'm standing with Mark Fancher on this. The revolutionaries got to take over.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you, and the awful part is you got some good people caught in the crossfire. And I'm not just saying it because my brother's in Congress. I know how Congress works. If you're not a member of either the Democratic or Republican Party, you won't get on committees. You can't deliver for your people.
You're right.
That's real. So you got to support these people Ilhan Omar, AOC, Bernie Sanders, who are trying to make change because they are not in the same position in which we find ourselves. They're not activists now, they are legislators.
Mhm.
And the game is different. Brandon Johnson, the Brandon Johnson we knew as an organizer, is not the same guy because he's
Right.
not in the same position as the mayor. He's got a
Absolutely.
lot of other things. When you were part of rank and file of Now, you
Mhm.
had one set of concerns. You became president. You said, oh, wait a minute. I got to get funded. I got to pay staff. In order for us to be over here, I got to, okay. So it's not that you giving away your principles. You got to survive
Mhm.
or you'll be Bowmaned and
Mm.
Bushed.
Mm.
Now, at some point, you got to be Bowmaned and Bushed.
Right.
Because we have to register our kids so and our people so they get out and vote. So you don't get Bowmaned and Bushed because before they were Bowmaned and Bushed, they tried to do it to Reverend Dr. Starks.
Yes.
But what he did do, Reverend's roots in the Black community, T.O. and Attorney Fancher and Attorney O'Neill and Dr. Latrice, they were so deep. We had more than 70 push satellites across the country. My father was on the road 5 to 6 days a week. That's how often I saw him. That's the kind of work he was doing. And it took that kind of work.
Mm-hmm.
The Secret Service will tell you he would land and have his itinerary in his head, which drove them crazy. They were like, you are even more of a security risk than you already are. You're the most threatened candidate in history. But part of that was, I think, was real sharp because he was with Dr. King. It turns out that the photographer was working for the FBI
Hmm.
and then other people
Mm-hmm.
who were real close to us. They were working for the FBI. What? So it was almost outsmarting these folks, Dr. Starks.
Yeah.
So I know I've got my aspirations, Attorney Fancher and T.O. Hardeman and Dr. Latrice and Attorney O'Neill. But also have to deal with a system that I have to deal with what is and how I can work my way through it. Because we have to keep that in mind too. Because it ain't nothing like taking a trip up to the hill, Dr. Starks. It's nothing like going to City Hall
Right.
and going, okay, so this is a little bit different. Okay. So
Mhm.
what are you dealing with? Because the people who oppose you are up under you when you win that office. See, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman used to say it works when you work it. We don't even know how the system works. So a lot of us don't even know how to push the party. And I say that as someone who is deeply discontented with this. And I have been for 40 years, and I'm tired of being tired.
Mm.
Dr. Starks.
Well, Dr. Latrice, I worked with you and others to try and stop uh, Emmanuel from becoming the uh, ambassador to Japan. But told all of the people who called me and talked to me about it, I said, they're going to give him the job because he is a major fundraiser. So that's why he got the job. Mr. President uh, wanted him there because he was raising money for the Democratic Party. So that the man is unfit. He is a crazy. He is in fact the uh, Donald Trump of the Democratic Party. He's all for himself, and he raises money. He's arrogant as hell, and so I think the party would go under, and
Well, wait a minute. He's all for himself.
of
And
course,
wait a minute. And the people he represents. This is not just personal for him. This is institutional. We have to be clear on.
right, right, right,
This is institutional.
yeah,
Because you have a lot of people in both parties who are trying to undermine the ceasefire. Let's get
mm-hmm,
real.
mm-hmm,
Who do not want peace in Ukraine.
mm-hmm.
They don't. They want us to have a war with Russia. I don't even understand this thing that they have on Russia, but they got it. I'm
Well,
and I'm tired of it. I mean, it's just everything that we stand for.
Mhm.
They don't.
Mm.
And we continue to support them. What is that
How can you
about?
want? How can you want a war with Russia when Putin is now talking about nuclear weapons
Wait a minute.
and nuclear weapons
In response to
in
us
response to?
shooting missiles into his country.
Exactly, exactly. So it's stupid. But I think if Rahm Emanuel becomes the head of the Democratic Party, you're going to see more people leaving the Democratic Party. I am sure of that, especially young people, because there's nothing that Rahm Emanuel will do to recruit and and bring young people into the party. Secondly, I think Attorney O'Neill is absolutely right. His whole approach to women is wrong. He will do nothing to bring women into the party. He will not do nothing to bring young people in the party, and he will turn off African Americans. So he is a disaster for the party. I don't see why
But
they
hold
would
on,
even
Dr.
consider
Starks.
him.
No, stay right there. This is where the class issues come in, Attorney Fancher. Because black people who have and women and Latinos who kind of have an in the party,
Hmm.
they're gonna work with him. That's what they're gonna and they're gonna be sent out here to work with us. Cause see, it's so funny. I'm watching the messaging change on CNN and MSNBC right now
Hmm.
because they lost so many viewers.
Yes, they did.
Okay,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
now Joe and Mika are at Mar-a-Lago. Quite frankly, they should have been there during the campaign because it's their responsibility to talk to everybody.
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, instead of being a mouthpiece for a party, just stop. Enough. Just talk to folks. First, your network made him a superstar, and y'all did too because you used to have him on your show all the time. So just stop. All y'all are friends. These people fight and they hug and kiss and make up. Stay right there. More of the Santita Jackson show coming up. Just stay right here. We're going to continue our conversation, but I want you to stay right here. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota.
Hmm.
Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, Santita Jackson and Friends Facebook page, at Santita J on X, and the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Dr. Robert Starks,
Yes.
Emeritus, Northeastern Illinois University, Attorney Terry O'Neill,
Right.
President Emerita of the National Organization of Women, community psychologist, Dr. LaShawn Latrice, T.O. Hardiman, WVON host, 6 a.m. on Sunday, 6 to 7. Your book, the name again?
Yeah, interrupting gun violence, the public health approach.
Absolutely. Go to Amazon and pick it up. And Attorney Fancher, brilliant civil libertarian and social critic. Your book, please.
It's called the Negroes of Friends Village. You can get it on Amazon.
You will love it too. It is really a great book. It
Mhm.
really is. He's tapping into his creative side on that book.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
right. But Dr. Starks,
Mhm.
Rahm Emanuel should not be, or should he be, the head of the party? That idea is being floated, and because he has raised so much
Of
money
course.
down
Of course.
through the years,
Hmm.
people are saying that that could be a capital idea. What say you?
That's wrong. Again, he doesn't respect women in the party. He doesn't respect young African Americans at all. Remember, he closed all of the community mental health centers in the city of Chicago, in addition to closing 50 schools. Uh, he did nothing to control the abuse of the police in the city of Chicago. He doesn't respect women. So why would you even think about a man like this, other than the fact that he can raise money? That is what he shares with Donald Trump. The whole money thing. Why is it? And maybe,
And
uh,
Nancy Pelosi.
and that's right. And Nancy
I
Pelosi.
mean, let's not make Donald Trump the mascot of all that is wrong in American politics. At least he tells you where he is coming from.
And what
Nancy
what
Pelosi
he will do.
in with the party because she
Mhm.
raised more money than anybody. That's the reality. Is that not with your arched eyebrows, Terry O'Neill? And I mean,
Yeah.
hey, I can work with her. I'm good with that. I'm just saying what's being exposed by Donald Trump and at this time is the rot in the system. We
Yes.
act as if when he says, "Oh, I don't pay taxes," look, everybody's looking for a loophole. Are you serious?
Yes.
This is
Yes.
how this works. What are you
Hmm.
talking about? So stop.
Hmm.
My thing is the rot that's in the system. It's here. Stop.
Hmm.
And what he and the elevation. First of all, the resuscitation, the reinvigoration of Rahm Emanuel. This young man who could have been governor of Florida, they've relegated him to the sidelines because he's gay
Hmm.
or bisexual.
Hmm.
I mean, that's it. He got caught up in some mess, as if other people can't get caught up in some mess. We haven't even heard from him anymore.
Hmm.
John
Well,
Edwards, his child, I'm sure, is almost grown. He was the only top tier candidate who was talking. He was going to make poverty the centerpiece of his campaign. We haven't heard from him anymore.
Santita, no one in either side of the political spectrum mentioned poverty in their pitches to the public. Nobody talks about poverty. We talk about the middle class. We have a serious poverty uh,
Problem.
situation in this country. Why is it nobody talks about poverty? And secondly, I want to ask the Attorney Fancher, how do we get the whole thing of money in politics? How much money, Santana, how much money did the Republicans and the Democrats together uh, pay for this election? Was it
Billion.
billions of
Billions.
dollars?
I mean, and
How
it's
did,
dark. And let's be clear, it's dark money, Mark. I mean,
yes,
you don't just come up with $1 billion
and
overnight.
corporate money,
And they're all doing it.
Exactly,
They're all doing
exactly.
it. Oh my goodness, she's raising up. She's now $20 million in debt. How'd that happen? Well, you got to pay all these celebrities millions of dollars.
Yes, yes, she has to pay off the celebrities who made those pictures for her.
Well, no,
Absolutely.
but what they didn't get was Donald Trump didn't have celebrities, because he was it.
Hmm.
And guess what? So was Bernie Sanders, but we didn't want him.
Hmm.
Bernie
But
didn't bring not their celebrity out with him. We heard he was coming. We wanted to see him.
right. So you got a money man who is absolutely insane, and
Are we talking
Rahm
about Ron?
Emanuel,
Oh, okay.
and now you're going to make money and economics even more prevalent inside the Democratic Party. That makes no sense
But no,
to
but it's
me.
not just that. It's his
Absolutely
politics,
makes no
because
sense.
he is a right winger. He is as racist
Oh,
as
without a doubt.
he is. He
Without,
does not believe in educating black and brown children.
absolutely not.
Let's put this real. He does not want a ceasefire. He was with the
Right.
IDF. He lost a part of his finger to that. I mean, how is that not disqualifying?
Mm-hmm. All right.
I
Well,
mean, I remember when Reverend ran for president. Do you know what he was asking? I think it was on Face the Nation or Meet the Press. One of the Kalb brothers. You remember Marvin and Bernard Kalb? They are of
mhm,
another generation, everybody. They were huge in media, huge. They asked him, "Are you black or American first?" Mark,
mhm,
I've been here hundreds of years. You got an immigrant story. Now I'm not going out America. We ain't gonna play who's more American than anybody. But if you can ever question my Americanness when you see a black person up in this camp, I was brought over here to work. How dare you
mhm,
ask me? You don't ask anyone else that. And you have to take loyalty oaths in Congress. Are you serious? Not even to our own country.
mhm,
And you ask me if I'm black or American first. How dare you?
mhm.
I'm insulted by that 40 years later, Mark. And we need to have an insult level. And the reason we continue to get this garbage shoveled our way is because we don't have insult levels. There's no way that David Axelrod should have felt comfortable forming his lips to put this on the table. But somehow or another, he felt comfortable and justified. After this man killed this boy, he didn't shoot the gun, but he covered it up. so he could run for mayor again, so he could seek higher office. Because yes, you know, Terry O'Neill is just, he's been aiming to be president. That's what he wants.
Mhm.
Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think you're right. I mean, there's the question of personal dignity, pride. I mean, why do we want to lower ourselves to become a part of any of that? I mean, we just reject it. You know, I've said it many times. You know, Jesus is the best guide. I mean, his followers, when they were living in oppressive conditions in first century Palestine, when they were occupied by the Roman Empire and they had to deal with police brutality and exploitation, when they were heavily taxed, when they were discriminated against. The last thing that they thought was, well, you know, maybe we can improve our condition by somehow becoming involved in the Roman political system. Maybe we should run somebody for the Roman Senate. Maybe we should go and lobby in Rome for better conditions. For that's ridiculous. They understood the nature of the oppressor, and the fact that that was not going to provide them with any relief, and so they rejected all of it. They said, we're not part of any of that, and they turned to themselves. They put everything that they had into a common pot, and they shared it out equally, or to those who as people had need. And there were no poor among them, as the book says, and that's what we need to do. And people say, well, you know, that's kind of simple, you know, if you've got a small little group of people. But they weren't a small group of people. There were thousands of people who were following them. They started essentially a nation, and it became, after Jesus left them, it became multi-ethnic, multiracial, and there were Greeks who were part of the Christian first century Christian community who felt like they were getting shortchanged in the distribution, and so they established what I regard as the first socialist government. They selected people who were responsible for taking care of the resources and distributing them equally, and so you know, we have the capacity to do that. You know, particularly in the Black community, you know, we have a history of establishing strong institutions. We had to deal with Jim Crow and the fact that we had to make our own way and establish our own society, our own institutions. We can do that again. I mean, we have to reinforce the strength of HBCUs, Black farms, Black food cooperatives, all of the Black churches, all of these institutions which can provide a base of strength that can help us to provide for our community, that can help us survive and endure and prosper. The focus, our emotional energy needs to be devoted to that. Emotionally, where we are is we say the only way we're going to make advances is if we run people for office and if we register to vote and we turn out to vote. That's a dead end. It's like sending somebody to Rome. You know, why do that when we can, among ourselves, begin to not only build the capacity to survive here in this country, but look beyond the shores of the United States at other oppressed nations and other exploited nations and communities and work out relationships with them, which will help us not only to find opportunities for resources and for education. Cuba is willing to educate our kids in their medical school free of charge. Why not take advantage of it? Venezuela has been willing to provide us with free and low-cost fuel. Why not take advantage of it? And there's so many other opportunities internationally that we could take advantage of. And more important than that is that we're all oppressed by the same forces. And we can work internationally with people to identify the vulnerabilities and the weak points of the empire. And we can make plans to attack those points of vulnerability and essentially bring them down. It's been done before. We brought down apartheid South Africa that way because everybody recognized that that was a target and that it was a pariah state, or it should be marginalized. And international boycotts and exclusion and marginalization of that regime, which everybody thought was going to endure forever, it came crashing down. We can do that. All right, and I have to go. Sorry about that.
No,
Well,
and I thank
Mark, could I ask Mark one question? Why is it that message, the message that you just articulated, is not spreading across Black America?
Well, he has to have a platform first.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Now, I mean, that's why I have Mark here all the time. That's why I have you. That's why I have Terry. That's why I have
Mhm.
Dr. Latrice.
Okay.
Are you going to find him on CNN or MSNBC, Fox?
No,
No,
absolutely
no, no.
not.
And look, I've been a pundit on Fox. I had more space there politically. They did not require, and they did. I mean, and quite frankly, the advice that I got from Roger Ailes was, look, you are very likable. Had to add Al Bell, who owned Stax Records, said, ask him why he hired you. He said, because he said, I have my thoughts, but I want to know what your thoughts are, what his thoughts are. He said, number one, I liked you.
Mhm.
I read his book because he was also a mentor to Rachel Maddow, for example. He helped her to write her contracts and would give
Mhm.
her critique. Because if Roger liked you, he liked you. And he said, I'm not asking you to change your politics here. What he said, if I liked you, I know that other people are going to like you too. And MSNBC and CNN would be easy for you. People would expect you there. No one's going to expect you here. They're not going to see you coming. And he said, look, beautiful woman. He said, so people are going to watch you. He said, and he wasn't being fast or fresh. He said, this is a visual medium. This is how this works. He said, so I'm going to stop. He said, I'm going to stop when I see you. He said, that's what happens in the medium. He said, but they're going to hear you. They might get curious about you. And he said, they might even disagree with your politics, but because you are so nice, people will like you and they will give you, you might even convince one or two people along the way. He said, but the way you survive in this business is to be liked. If people don't like you, you can't stay on the air, whether it's on radio or TV. People don't understand. And I've tried to tell some people who've been on this show, Terry O'Neill, I'm like, hey, I hear you, but cool your jets. Because when people are listening, they need to like you. If people don't like you, you don't have a prayer in this space. It just, Terry, it doesn't work. Folks respond to folks they like. They do. If Reverend was disliked, he never would have made it. Your preacher, people like you. People like you. That's why you have to be careful about what you say about people. That's why part of the reason Hillary lost on deplorables. Because it's not that she was talking about Trump. Trump's supporters felt insulted. They said, Terry, you can unmute. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
she was insulting them. I mean,
she was
they
insulted. And when you do that, you're losing a potential voting pool,
yes,
Dr. Latrice and Dr. Starks. You can't do that. One of the things I've learned from Reverend, that we learned from Mayor Daley, number one, you don't call the name of your opponent. But should you, I mean, Mayor Daley would help us cut the ribbon at the expo. His fiercest opponent, post Dr. King, in Chicago, Terry O'Neill, was Jesse Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
But we were never like hostile to each other. Not personally hostile. You don't do that.
Right.
No. You don't do that, y'all. It doesn't work like that. You hold on to your principles, but
Yeah.
personal hostilities, they don't work. And you're insulting somebody because you know what? A candidacy is a Rorschach test. Different people mean people will glom onto Bernie for one set of reasons, and another set will glom on him for another set of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, all Barack needed to be was black. They didn't care what he stood for. They care now because they didn't get what they wanted, but they did get what they wanted because the first thing they wanted was a black guy.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing many women wanted was a woman. It's just when you start going down to number 2 through 10 on your list, you go, wait. This, woo, hold it. I don't want you to bomb up all these other places. Woohoo! Wait a minute, stop. I didn't, yeah, you did sign up for that because all you required was this.
Yeah.
All we're requiring is that someone be a Democrat. We don't care what they stand for. And I think
Santita.
what has changed Dr. Starks
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
and Dr. Latrice and Attorney O'Neill is that people are now saying, wait a minute,
That is what's changing.
we don't stand for the same things. I'm not feeling this.
Well, I've got to run, but before I go, let me just say this:
Mm.
that if you put Rahm Emanuel at the head of the Democratic Party, you're going to run women away from the party, as Dr. Latrice can attest to, and he's going to run many young African Americans away from the
And
party,
and young white
and white
kids
young
and
men
young
from the
Arab kids and young Latinos. It's
and
going to be a
and
rainbow because their politics are different.
and lastly, he's going to turn the Democratic Party into a commercial, big corporate dependency.
Yeah.
Total.
But that's what it is now. That's
Yes,
what
but
the
it's
GOP
going
is.
to come even more so.
Yeah.
It could get worse.
It
It could
could
get
get
worse.
But
worse.
I'm saying,
That's my point.
But that's American. I'm hearing your point. I'm just saying that's what
That's very American.
both parties serve the oligarchy.
Hmm. I agree.
Period.
And it's terrible. The man has no respect for women and young people.
And
Uh,
black people.
and black people. Dr. Latrice, I can never forgive him for closing down all of those community mental health centers in the city, and those especially in the black community.
That's right.
I will
We're,
never forgive him for that. And the closing
Oh,
50 schools.
we can't hear you, Dr. Latrice.
I was saying I have to go into my meeting now. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, but
And
thank
I've
you.
got to go too.
No,
So,
we're gonna close out. I mean, I
okay.
just because it's certainly love you, Dr. Latrice, love you, Dr. Starks, but
Oh,
Attorney O'Neill. I mean,
yeah.
I gotta tell you, I'm very, very. I mean, when I saw your reaction last night, and I had to laugh because when you said, "Wait a minute, what?" Oh, you said,
Oh,
"Oh my, no!" I said, "Yeah, yeah, unbelievable."
and Santina, I want to say, yeah, personally, he's a misogynist, but that has huge policy implications.
How
Remember during the ACA, uh, the two things that Rahm Emanuel helped, the two ideas that were thrown under the bus were insurance coverage for abortion care, not just insurance coverage, because the ACA is about health insurance, right? And so what we wanted to do was make sure that insurance companies would be covering all reproductive health care, including abortion care. And the states were already, regulating it and tightening it. That had nothing to do with it. It was just insurance coverage. And he threw that under the bus, but he also threw, if you recall, the public option under the bus. Okay, who did that hurt disproportionately? Women. Why? Because the public option would have been a less expensive, really better option for a lot of people who, in fact, ended up having a hard time paying for even the bronze level of coverage under the ACA. So Emmanuel makes policy choices based on it's not going to hurt the people I know and respect. So the developers, the funders, they're almost all white, they're almost all male. And if he doesn't have any, he's got a hard time with empathy. And so he can't put himself in the position of a woman who's got two kids and is struggling,
or who's in school?
or who's in
Oh,
school.
wait a minute. But
yeah.
he also, let's go down the line a bit. Because some people, even when they are poor, for reasons that are deeply personal to them, because that is a deeply personal decision that no human being would ever want to make.
Right.
No one ever wants to be faced with that. Nobody. Okay. So I don't believe that women make this decision casually. Absolutely not.
Right.
Wherever you land on this. That having been said, if I have the child, you don't help me to keep it alive.
Right. This is, yes.
See, because my approach to reproductive rights, I believe in choice, but I am not pro-abortion. That having been said, I don't moralize on that, y'all, because I have my own life that got me here, and my religious training, my family, all of that. But that's that's personal to me.
Right.
What is not personal is something that happens to girls that does not happen to boys. When you move into womanhood and there is a physical sign that you are moving there, and that's as explicit as I'm going to go, because I think there's some conversations I only want to have with women, quite frankly.
Right.
Okay, I'm from that school. You no longer can go to the pediatrician.
Yes.
You must now go to a gynecologist. Girls early on, at 9 and 10, and with the foods that we're eating, we're maturing faster. So
Early.
maybe even at 8 and 9 and 10 and not, they have to go to a gynecologist, because every month, or however these things work out, you get a sign about where your health is.
Right.
And you must do this for the rest of your life.
Right. And if you
Right.
don't have insurance, you don't.
And
do
if you don't have insurance,
Exactly. And not only that, the thing is with these politicized bans on a certain type of health care,
and wait a minute, and terminations of pregnancies, and whatever, that's part of your health care. It's not part of a man's health care. You don't have to worry about that.
Exactly.
What am I got to worry about?
Yeah. And so, and in fact, in Congress, there was a member of Congress who he wasn't a Democrat, I'm pretty sure he was a Republican, who literally said he didn't want prenatal care to be covered by insurance, because he said, I'm not going to ever get pregnant. There's a lot of people who look like me will never get pregnant. So why should we include it in an insurance bill, in the ACA, which is supposed to cover everyone? It's like bonkers. I mean, how many people that look like you and me, Santita, would ever have prostate cancer?
But
but he wants prostate cancer covered. He just doesn't want stuff that would affect. So, but
women, and then I've got to see every other commercial late at night is on erectile dysfunction.
Exactly.
But and so that's a national crisis.
Yes.
But uterine
control,
cancer, and ovarian cancer, and
Yeah.
and birth control. These things, birth control.
Yes.
That's not. I can't put that on TV, and I can't get it.
Right. I know and so that and the problem with putting a man like Rahm Emanuel in charge of the Democratic Party is it has huge policy implications. It's not, it is that he covered up the murder of that child. It totally is that. And that alone should be disqualifying. But let's look at all of the policy implications. He's going to prefer his developer funders and the interests of his developer funders over the needs of ordinary people who are struggling to make ends meet.
Wait a minute, for housing. Wait for women for housing.
Yeah, for housing.
Wait a minute, because you've given me a light bulb moment. This is the way that these are the people who buy the house, who buy and who build housing that people who live in the city and work in the city cannot afford.
Exactly. And we have regulations in many cities, including Portland, including Nashville. You have regulations. You want to put up a building this high, so X% of it has to be affordable. And they ignore the regulations and they are not held accountable, or they weasel around them some kind of way and are not held accountable. So they continue to build these, more houses that are too expensive and apartment buildings that are too expensive. And we have a terrible housing crisis. And the developers I just couldn't make money with all your restrictions and regulations. I'm very nonviolent, but that's the kind of thing that makes me, want to slap somebody. Dude, get out of the development business if you can't make money out of it, and let someone else in who can. You can make money. But the point is that
there are no buts, because this is all part of the decision.
That's right. And so
wait a minute, they're not talking about registering more people to vote and growing the party.
Exactly.
They're talking about growing their coffers.
Exactly. That is what
the
Rahm Emanuel pick would be about, bringing more money into the Democratic Party, which means less empathy for the people who don't have money.
But it's not just the money, it's his policies.
Yes.
He does not support the educating of Black and brown children, and Black children in particular. He is someone who supports what is happening to the Palestinians in the Middle East. Now, wait a minute. Now, that's all. Those are his politics, too. Yes. I saw that up close. But no, it's not just the money. He represents a world view.
Yes. A world view
antithetical to the interest of people who are seeking to be self-determinative,
Yes.
People who are seeking freedom and justice everywhere.
Right.
That is clear.
Right.
And the fact that he is allowed, Terry, the space, because all the people who they're mentioning as possible heads of the party, they're all centrists.
Right, right. Well, this is what I was afraid of when I saw the move toward the Cheneys. That the idea is, oh, what we have to. So Liz Cheney has said this publicly long before this election and all the craziness that happened with this election. Liz Cheney said that she thought in an ideal world you could build a new political party that would essentially be centrist, to be made up of so-called moderate Republicans and centrist Democrats, and pull the center. She said that would be the most powerful and best form of government, because it would all be the centrists from both sides of the aisle. And look at what she's doing. She's marginalizing, the Proud Boys, which I don't feel sorry for them, but she's really marginalizing the people, the Bernie Sanders people, the Jesse Jackson people, the AOC people, the Cori Bush. She wants to marginalize them out of political engagement.
And you know what's ended up happening? The far right and the far left are beginning to kiss. Because the interesting part of that is we're getting pushed out so far that we're looking at each other face to face.
And remember,
uncommitted. I'm not saying that the Proud Boys, yes, but I'm saying Republicans.
Yes, yeah, yes. But remember, two examples. In Germany, the word Nazi is a shortened form of, I can't pronounce it in Germany, but it's National Socialists.
Absolutely.
These were nationalist socialists. This was socialism for some people and oppression and fear and traumatization for others. So it's National Socialism. State of Oregon was conceived as a whites only state, and it is socialism for white people in Oregon. Mm-hmm. It's supposedly a blue state. There's very few people of color in Oregon. So yes, when you say the right and the left are coming together, what you're really talking about is a hierarchy based on white identity and generosity for everyone who you can include in your racial group, and then terrible, hardship for everyone else.
But I think you're right. But I think the other part of that is that there are some people who are beginning to see, we've all been jammed here. I can only go back to farm aid with Reverend Willie Nelson, who was a big supporter, said, mm-hmm, Reverend, you need to come to farm aid. This was after the 84 campaign. It was like, mm-hmm, okay, Willie. And he knows my father's not scared. He said, I know, Jesse, this is not Reverend. This is not. People might think this is not your group. He said, they might not think they're your group. But after they hear you.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
He said, after they hear you, I promise you, you're going to walk away with some supporters. He went down there, predictably, as people predicted on this side, when he walked out, when Willie Nelson introduced him, there was a chorus of boos. I mean, they almost tore that stadium up.
Mm-hmm.
And my father stood there calmly, thanked Willie Nelson, thanked the organizers of Farm Aid, and thanked the audience for being there, because we need each other. By the time this man was done, they were shouting, run, Jesse, run.
Right.
We almost couldn't get out of the stadium grounds because people wouldn't let his car move. We love you, Jesse. Jesse, you're my guy. I didn't think you were my guy, but hey, y'all, there's an opportunity for us to come together. And, and Terry, we need to do that. Because, look, the Democrats are already, and the Republicans are growing. Because you know what? They read the tea leaves. They didn't like Trump for a whole lot of reasons. But you know what they did? They said, you know what? They did with him what they didn't do to Bernie. They said, okay, he's pulling tens of thousands of people, Bernie. The people like him, Bernie.
Mm-hmm.
People want him, Bernie, because they voted, they toggled in open primaries. They went between Bernie and Trump. The Republicans pulled him in and said, okay, I'm not in love with you, but I'm not going, I haven't fallen in love, but I'm going to fall in line because you can help us to do some things. We're going to surround you. And I don't care what your thoughts are, Donald. You're going to do this, that, and the other. Because when he got to the White House, it was a whole different game. He tried to end NAFTA.
Mm-hmm.
The deep state in the White House literally would not let his staffer in the office to have him sign the papers. Y'all, that's how this thing works. I'm not telling you some state secret. This is the report.
Right.
He said, I want a rapid withdrawal from Afghanistan. Like today, get out. We got to go. It was his national security team said, well, no. It needs to be gradual. If we have to withdraw at all. He said, yeah, we're going to get out of there. Okay. And only heaven knows what they told him, because these folks tell you things that make you get a little nervous for your family. They said, we're going to make it a gentle withdrawal, which means Northrop Grumman and Boeing and all these corporations are still going to get their contracts. To see if he withdrew rapidly,
Exactly.
contracts are ended. You don't get the other side of your billion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm not taking up from him. I'm trying to let you know how this thing works. So even as we talk about ending the Democratic Party, you got progressives in Congress, in both houses, and in state legislatures who have to deal with a system that is already in place. It's baked in the cake. You ain't moving nowhere in the U.S. House of Representatives, the U.S. Senate, the state legislatures, in the Senate, or the representative side, unless you're in one of two parties. You ain't getting nothing. You won't get on a committee.
Right.
Tell them, Terry. They won't let you on a committee. You can't be. And guess what? You are billed by the party.
Mm-hmm.
So before you raise your money to be reelected, you got to pay the party. You got a 6-figure debt in the House of Representatives to the party.
It's white patriarchal capitalism. I mean, you can trace there was a moment in this country, a tiny moment in the late 1940s, after World War II, and before what was good for GM became good for America, when there was a strong support for unions, but also there was legal support, state judges, this is all state law, saying that corporations don't exist for the purpose of making a profit for the shareholders. Of course, you have to make a profit in order to survive, but corporations that are not for a specific purpose, they're generally out there to make money. They have to take care of their employees. They have to take care of the environment. They have to take care of the local community. Mm-hmm. They have to be good corporate citizens. That was in the law. That began to change in the 1980s, really, and suddenly by the end of the 1990s, one of the most influential corporate law courts in the country, which is in Delaware, came out and said a corporation exists to not only to make profits but to maximize, and that's important. Because maximizing profits, not just making a profit for your shareholders, means you got to squeeze the employees as much as you can. What has happened? We've got gig workers, because that's a way of squeezing employees. You got to squeeze your customers. Why? You make crappy products, excuse my language, and the customers just have to put up with it. This is big tech writ large. I mean, big tech just puts out these products and shrugs their shoulders when it doesn't work. You got to work with it somehow, because you're squeezing the customers for profits. You got to squeeze the environment. You got to do as much dumping as you can legally get away with, and you're lobbying people to so the dumping toxic materials into the soil and so forth. You got to squeeze the environment. So profit maximization is literally the corporate managers rely on this idea of corporate maximization to justify and explain their egregious exploitation of the people and the planet, and they will absolutely tell you that that's what they're supposed to do. And this is the world that did not exist in the late 40s that now does exist. It's white patriarchal capitalism
that a lot of us
Yes.
have signed women,
Yes.
some Black people, some brown people, some Asian people. Let's be very clear.
Yeah.
Whiteness is not a color as much as it is a construct.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
There are some people there are some women who are misogynists.
Mhm.
Okay. There are and there's some men who fight it.
Yes.
Saying I was born into a system, but you know what? I know it's wrong, and I know what my instincts are. I know what my first mind would tell me to do. But I know, I'm trying to work my way out of it. You know what, Terry? I'm
And when
sorry.
I say white patriarchal capitalism, I'm talking structures. I'm not talking the individual.
No. But you're right, because we're here on a white patriarchal project, the colonial project. That's what the Americas, the conquering of the Americas, and the rest of the world is about, right?
Yes.
I mean, because when you look at Europeans, they don't share.
Right.
I mean, because we invite them into our countries, and like the indigenous people said, "Okay, you come in. I don't know where you came from, but okay. Well, let me show you how to eat." And what you do is you kill me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You genocide me out.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have put indigenous people on patches of land, and then we took their children because we wanted to whiten them up, and we
Horrible.
killed them at these schools
Yes.
with the help of the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Now wait, y'all, stop. What'd you say? Ashley King from Memphis, Venezuela is unstable because the U.S. wants to steal all of its oil. I told you they want Venezuela without Venezuelans. That's why we got 3 million of them here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that they want to be here. Who wants to come to cold Chicago?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
They will run out of their country.
And it's for some business.
For some business. And if we don't attack that, Terry,
right,
we're missing the point.
We talk about the American military going in and doing this war on drugs, for example.
Yeah.
That was so an American business could make more money.
An American business made money. They washed the money in their banks. The bank that's a business.
Yeah, I know.
No. I mean, but I'm just saying, talking to you, we're teasing this out so people can understand. I just want you, because I want to respond to Robert, because I hear you, Robert, and you are so wonderful. But I wanted to put a finer point on this, and I want you to respond to this, Terry, too. Jesse Jackson rebuilt the Democratic Party in the 80s when Reagan did a number on the Democrats. He did. Also, Bill Clinton knows Jesse L. Jackson for his winning the election in first and second term. Absolutely, because the pathway was clear when Reverend decided not to run in 92.
Mm-hmm.
Second to none when it comes to the Democrats, but when it comes to democracy. The reason we ran in the Democratic Party, see, we had to fight the Democrats in Chicago, Robert. And I hear what the Democrats want to do is pull Reverend's legacy in without pulling in the policies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they see him at 83, and they see him at the age of 83. They see that he's physically infirmed. And so what they want to do is Muhammad Ali him, stand with him, and he is what the Democrat is. That is not true.
That's right.
We stood for democracy and for saving the republic.
Mm-hmm.
The only lane open to Reverend in the 80s was the Democratic lane. You couldn't run with Reagan. First of all, we couldn't sign on to Reagan, who was standing with apartheid.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want you to know we caught the devil trying to get the Democrats to push for Mandela's freedom too.
Right. Yes, I know. Yes. Well, look at who the Democrats were. Right. Still in the 80s.
Didn't we have to run against the party?
Yeah.
We didn't. I mean, this was not about saving the Democratic Party. It ain't never been about that.
Yeah.
It has been about advancing democracy and saving the republic.
Mm-hmm.
The Democratic Party was the horse that we rode in on.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to clarify that, because I'm an independent Democrat, and if they keep at it, I'm just going to be an independent, which is fine with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what they're doing is it's antithetical to our interest, to what women need. And I have to tell you, Terry, racism is as offensive to me as sexism is as offensive. Sexism is as offensive to me as racism. My first term paper was on women's suffrage.
Right.
I
Yeah.
grew up in the heart of the civil rights movement. Yeah. But to see misogyny acted out every day, that bothered me.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Sure.
bothers me right now.
Yeah.
No, 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 no. Because women, all women, still make less than what all men make.
Right. I know. I know. I know.
Now,
It's
my problem is that I don't have white women who stand with me. In fact, white women voted for Trump. They did.
again, and this
Again.
before, and again, it's been
Why?
decades and decades.
Carrie, you are a white woman. You have a conversation with white women that I'm not going to have.
Right.
What is it that why I mean, what is it that because white women go against their own interests all the time? A lot of people do, but I need you to explain what white women are doing.
I think it was W.E.B. Du Bois explained it. Lyndon Johnson explained it. It's not just one reason only, but
Okay.
the benefits of whiteness in this country. And whiteness is fluid. You know,
What do
my
you mean?
ancestors came here from Ireland. They were not considered white. It was only in the 1800s white that Irish became considered white because it broke them apart from because they came in as indentured servants, which
Right.
means enslavement for their lifetime, but not for their children, as opposed to kidnapped Africans brought to this country, enslavement also for their children. So that,
And if I may say, that's why I have Irish in my background.
right.
Because we were and Native American in my background.
Yes.
Because all the cast-offs would end up marrying,
Right.
having children.
Yes.
I mean,
Loving, extending
right?
their families. But there was the concerted effort by the planters in the South, the plantation owners, the running the forced labor camps. What they realized is they needed to create a division between the Irish indentured servant immigrants and the African enslaved workers. And they did it over a period of time, and that's how the Irish became white. It's how the Italian Americans became white. They were not considered white when they first started immigrating here.
But no, I don't want you to go past that because I think that people need to understand the politics of whiteness. Because
Yes.
the white people were the British. Germans weren't even white when they got here.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Exactly,
it's like
yeah.
it's kind of because I'm not European, so I don't get it. But that's how they do this thing, right?
So yeah, well, yeah, and that's so the whiteness is what justifies. So whiteness as a concept comes along after the human trafficking, after Europeans move into Africa and begin human trafficking, and then comes the quote unquote slave trade, kidnapping Africans and taking them to South America, to Latin America, to North America, and to Europe. And so this trade, this is capitalism in operation. It's commercial operation. This is what's happening. It begins to be justified in this country, specifically along racial lines, because that was a justification that worked. It's just that random. I mean, history sometimes can be really random. So you have racism and whiteness being developed as a justification for enslavement of people of African descent. And this is why whiteness is so fluid. You can just assign whiteness to the people that you want to divide them from other workers.
But that is the problem that Black people are having with the Hispanic population, because when you look at the census, they can be white and Hispanic. They claim brown while they're on the come up, but when they get there, they become white. And the only people who cannot do that are Black people.
Through the centuries, Santita, the census has not known how to deal with Hispanic, which is literally people who speak Spanish, or Latinas or Latinos. It changes from year to year from decade to decade in the census as but there is no racial categorization of Latino. It's not racial. The race categorizations in this country are white and Black. Yeah. Indian American, Native Americans, there's no racial categorization for them on the census. That has to do with how the powers that be were managing race in order to promote their funders' economic interests. So that's why whiteness is a concept. It's not skin color; it's a concept. And whiteness has huge benefits for the people who can who can credibly claim whiteness. And those benefits are, as Lyndon Johnson said, I can feel better about myself. simply because I'm in the category of white, and there are people who are not in the category of white that I can feel better than. So I will accept a lot of poverty, if I get that psychological benefit of whiteness. But then there's also huge, huge material benefits of whiteness, Santita. And this is the thing: women work a lifetime at unequal pay, and therefore, white women are highly conscious that their own economic welfare is more dependent on the ability of the men in their family to earn money than on the women in their family, or their own ability to earn them. Everybody knows you don't make as much money. People know this. And they do attach themselves to white men because that's where you get economic security.
You're safe.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's what happens with a lot of white women. The only good news is that we keep coming up on 45% of white women who don't fall for that kind of nonsense.
Mhm.
And so we keep trying to build on that and try to do it. But I have to tell you, I mean, it's an uphill battle.
Well, but it isn't. But I think privilege, because I've seen Black people get into the elite schools, they get the great jobs, and people get forgetful.
Right. Yes.
It happens to it. The air up there is real thin, and it changes your brain chemistry, because it happens to almost everybody who gets there to the top of the mountain. They forget the people who are still in the valley, who can't climb up this icy mountain.
Right. Exactly.
So that's why I'm saying, I think that's why I want us to continue to have these mature conversations, because painting with this broad brush,
yes,
it excludes you, it excludes Dennis Kucinich,
right,
it excludes Willie Nelson, it excludes Chris Christopherson, it excludes Reverend Frank Watkins. See, I grew up with some people, Gary Masoni, Reverend David Wallace. I grew up with some white people who were with the proposition.
Yes.
And we had to fight some Black people who were fighting not only to keep us on the plantation, but to be the overseers.
Yes.
And I saw men and women, white, Black, brown, yellow, and red, on both sides of the divide. And be clear, the divide, we keep making it just about color. And mind you, Black people have some special needs that nobody else has, because we are the readily identifiable other. Ain't nobody else walking down the street getting pulled over and shot by these police but us.
That's true. That's absolutely true.
That's real. Black people have some special issues that have to be addressed because of the position in which we find ourselves. Everybody thought Mariah Carey was great because we thought she was just a white girl who sounded Black. Black folks were like, no, look at her. Because Black people can sniff out Blackness real quick. Okay, because we all grew up with people who looked white, and they were passing, and it was cool with us because they would bring the checks home. I get it. My Aunt Claire did that. She was so upset when she found out, when they celebrated the first Black woman to work at Marshall Fields. She said, I worked at Marshall Fields, but she looked like Lucille Ball.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
So it was like she was that white, and her hair was carrot red.
Wow.
Okay. Wow. And when her aunts came, they were blonde with blue eyes. These are the people who raised my father, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's that. And so, but when they found out that Mariah Carey's narrative on her life changed, when we found out that she was, wait a minute, her father's Black? Uh-oh. So she's Black. Oh, I saw her do an interview, and someone asked her, so what color are you? She said, in this country, I'm Black.
Wow. That's the qualifier.
Exactly. She said, in this country.
Yeah.
And so that was it for her. So I mean, only God knows what Tommy Mottola was saying to her. I mean, this is the guy who Michael Jackson said was an absolute racist. He was the guy who was heading up Sony Music at that time. Who would not let, when Michael was alive, when he was in a fight when they brought up those children on him, which was a lie. He was in the middle of renegotiating his contract with Sony. If he had gotten the money that they owed him, he would have bankrupted the company.
Wow.
Michael sold more than 1 billion records in his lifetime. When you look at the Guinness Book of World Records 30 years ago, 100 million records was the benchmark, and that was the Beatles. Michael completely busted that.
Right.
In his lifetime, before he was 50 years old, he had sold 1 billion plus records. 1 billion. You can't even conceive of that. One out of every, at that time, 6 people on earth had a Michael Jackson album.
On
You
on
can't even
yeah.
you can't even conceive of that. But guess what?
Yeah.
They were renegotiating his contract. Guess what happened? Sony stopped printing his CDs,
Huh.
cut off his money.
Wow.
So Michael showed up at my father's office without calling him, unbidden, because he said, "You're the only one who can save me." They were going to take everything he had, the billions,
Wow.
for $300,000.
Oh my God.
He had to pay $9 million a month. He had a $300,000 interest payment on top of that. They were
Wow.
going to take it all because he missed the interest payment. He said, "Reverend, you got to help me. These people are trying to kill me." He said,
Yeah.
he sat in that office and stayed with us for about 2 or 3 days.
Wow.
And Reverend took him to the people, to the head of the bank to renegotiate his contract, got him a place to live. He was in such a bad way. He had to go. My father had to pay for his hotels across the country.
Wow. Yeah.
But we don't have that kind of money. That having been said, but that's all right, because he was trying to do, but we knew what Michael was trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael was fighting for his freedom.
Yeah.
Because something that Sam Cooke died trying to get, who died under mysterious circumstances. Sam Cooke was one of those pursued men on earth, and he was a gentleman. Everyone who knows him knows that he didn't chase a woman. And his injuries were consistent with him having been beaten to death. When Ed James saw him in the casket, she said he was decapitated. Decapitation doesn't mean they cut your head off. It means the top of your neck is separated from your spinal column. And if you see pictures of him, at that time they used to take pictures of you in the casket. You could see that his chin was almost on his chest.
Wow. Yeah.
So I mean, y'all stop. That happened to Jackie Wilson. It happened to George Michael. George Michael, I mean, he tried to. That's why Prince's home was at Paisley Park, because he sat with his masters. He knew that was what the most valuable thing that he had.
Wow.
It's a game, y'all.
Yeah.
And we need to get clear on it. That's why when you look at, to get to the point, because I'm going to go back so we can get out.
I got a 10 o'clock. I got to run to.
You look at a Rahm Emanuel.
Yes.
You're saying no.
Yeah.
And if you want us, you've got the final word, Terry O'Neill.
Circling back to the Rahm Emanuel suggestion, hard no. If you really want people who will, try to improve this country, not with Rahm Emanuel. The Democratic Party goes there. There's a lot of people going to be out, just out.
A lot of people are going to be out.
Yeah.
A lot of us.
That's it.
Us.
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 Yes.
You want me? You better not do that.
Yeah.
And you better not come up with a centrist. I'm tired of this. You should have learned from this election. So I love you, Attorney Terry O'Neill, my sister beloved, my big sister in the movement, someone who brought me into NOW, and I thank you for that. You brought me to NOW in more ways than one.
Thank you, my dear.
And I thank you, and I love you. And
all right, love you,
everybody. You all like being at this time so much. We're going to try it again in the morning. How about that? 7. Okay. Love you. Love you too.
Okay. Bye-bye.
God bless you, everybody. Thank you. And I know you look fab, Lorraine. I'm Santita Jackson, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It has been my honor and my pleasure to be with you today. I love you, everybody. God bless.